Hello children, today I am going to explain the lesson On the Face of It, written by Susan Hill. About the author, Susan Hill was born on 5th February 1942 in Scarborough, England. She is a prolific writer and has authored many novels and short stories. In a semi-autobiographical novel, In the Springtime of the Year 1974, she talks about loss, loneliness, and isolation, which also reflects in the play On the Face of It. She is a critic, reviewer, and editor. Introduction. On the Face of It is a play featuring an old man and a small boy meeting in the farmer's garden. Both suffer from physical impairment, but Mr. Lamb, the old man, takes life as it comes to him, while the young boy Derry, that is Derek, is very withdrawn and defiant. The meeting turns out to be a boon for Derry. Mr. Lamb is able to give him hope and the ability to see the bright side of life. Now I will explain the lesson line wise. On the Face of It by Susan Hill. This is a play featuring an old man and a small boy meeting in the farmer's garden. The old man strikes up a friendship with the boy who is very withdrawn and defiant. What is the bond that unites the two? Scene 1. Mr. Lamb's garden. There is the occasional sound of bird song and of tree leaves rustling. Derry's footsteps are heard as he walks slowly and tentatively through the long grass. He pauses, then walks on again. He comes round a screen of bushes so that when Mr. Lamb speaks to him, he is close at hand and Derry is startled. Now, in the first scene, it is the garden. It is staged in the garden where there is occasional sound of bird song and rustling, the sound of the leaves moving. Derry, the boy, small boy, his footsteps are heard. He is walking slowly and tentatively. Tentatively means very cautiously, stealthily through the long grass. He pauses, that is, he stops, then walks on again. He comes round a screen of bushes. Then he comes round a screen, that is, there were bushes which covered Mr. Lamb sitting on the other side. So that when Mr. Lamb speaks to him, he is close at hand. Mr. Lamb is just on the other side of the bushes. He is quite close to him. And that is why Derry is startled. He is scared when suddenly Mr. Lamb speaks to him, because Derry had not expected anyone in that place. Mr. Lamb, mind the apples. Derry, what? Who's that? Who's there? Now Derry thought there was no one there in the garden. So he's surprised. He's taken aback when he hears Mr. Lamb say, mind the apples. Mr. Lamb, Lamb's my name. Mind the apples. Crab apples, those are. Wind falls in the long grass. You could trip. So, Mr. Lamb says that there are apples. Crab apples means the crab apples is a variety of apples. He says that the apples that have fallen down from the tree because of the wind, they are in the long grass. Derry might not see those apples and he might trip. He might fall because he might step onto them. Derry, I thought this was an empty place. I didn't know there was anybody here. Now Derry, he's on the defiance. He says, I thought that this place was empty. No one was there. Mr. Lamb, that's all right. I'm here. What are you afraid of, boy? That's all right. Mr. Lamb says, "It's all right. I am here, so why should you be afraid? What are you afraid of?" Dairy, "I thought it was empty, an empty house." Mr. Lamb, "So it is, since I am out here in the garden. It is empty until I go back inside." So Mr. Lamb, he takes his words literally and he says that because he was out of the house was empty only. He was in the garden, outside in the garden. So he says, "The house is empty till I again go back inside. In the meantime, I'm out here and likely to stop. So I'm going to stay out for some time. So the house is empty. A day like this, beautiful day, not a day to be indoors." He says that it's a beautiful day. The weather must have been good. So he says it's a beautiful day and it is a day when one should be out. He should not be inside. Dairy, panic. "I've got to go." Now Dairy, he becomes panicky. He says, I've got to go." Mr. Lamb, "Not on my account. I don't mind who comes into the garden. The gate's always open. Only you climbed the garden wall." Mr. Lamb says that he doesn't mind if anybody comes in, so it should not be because of him that the boy should leave. As it is, he keeps the gate open, so everybody can come in if anybody wants to. And he says that the gate was open, only you climbed the wall, garden wall, and came in. The boy must not have noticed that the gate was open, so he had secretly climbed the wall and jumped into the garden. Dairy, angrily, "You were watching me?" Mr. Lamb, "I saw you, but the gate's open. All welcome. You are welcome. I sit here. I like sitting." So he says that I saw you jump from the wall, but jump over the wall, but the gate was open. All are welcome. Even you are welcome. Dairy, "I had not come to steal anything." Now he is very defensive. He says, "I did not come here to steal anything." Mr. Lamb, "No, no, the young lads steal. Scrump the apples. You're not so young." He says that, "No, you did not come here to steal. It is the young children, the small children who come to steal the apples." Dairy, "I just wanted to come into the garden." Mr. Lamb, "So you did. Here we are then." Dairy, "You don't know who I am." Mr. Lamb, "A boy, 13 or so." Dairy, 14. Pause. "But I've got to go now. Goodbye." Mr. Lamb, "Nothing to be afraid of. Just a garden, just me." Dairy, "But I'm not afraid. People are afraid of me." Mr. Lamb, why should that be?" Dairy, "Everyone is. It doesn't matter who they are, or what they say, or how they look, how they pretend. I know, I can see." Mr. Lamb, "See what?" Dairy, "What they think." Mr. Lamb, "What do they think then?" Dairy, "You think, here's a boy, you look at me, and then you see my face, and you think, that's bad, that's a terrible thing, that's the ugliest thing I ever saw. You think, poor boy, but I'm not poor. Underneath, you are afraid. Anybody who would be. I am. When I look in the mirror and see it, I'm afraid of me." Now, Dairy, he says that people are afraid of him. He wanted to leave. Mr. Lamb had not yet seen his face, so he was insisting upon going. Though Mr. Lamb did not want him to leave, he keeps telling him that you can stay. I am here, so what? You should not be afraid. The boy says, I'm not afraid. It is the people who look at me, they are afraid. And they think. He says that he knows that they are afraid, though they might pretend as if they are not afraid. To this, Mr. Lamb asks, why should they be afraid? So he says, when they look at my face, they think what a terrible thing he is, or that's the ugliest thing I ever saw. Or they take pity on him and say, poor boy. But he says, I know from underneath they are afraid. They try to show that they are not afraid, but they are afraid. He says that even he himself feels afraid when he looks at his face in the mirror. Mr. Lamb: no, not the whole of you, not of you. Really, yes. Mr. Lamb: later on, when it's a bit cooler, I'll get the ladder and a stick and pull down these crab apples. They are ripe for it. I make jelly. It's a good time of year, September. Look at them, orange and golden. That's magic fruit, I often say. But it's best picked and made into jelly. You could give me a hand. Now, Mr. Lamb says, no, it is just the whole of you will not be afraid. He does not agree with that. But then, after some time, Dairy insists yes. And then Mr. Lamb says that the weather is quite good. It's going to become cool after some time. And then he would get a ladder and a stick and pull down and he'll break the crab apples. He'll pluck the crab apples because they were ripe, and he was going to make jelly. And he says that it's a good time of the year, that is the month of September. And he says, look at them, they're orange and golden. That's magic fruit, I often say. But it's best picked and made into jelly. He says that I always say that this fruit is a magic fruit and it should be picked and it should be made into jelly. You could give me a hand. He said, you could help me. Dairy: what have you changed the subject for? People always do that. Why don't you ask me? Why do you do what they all do and pretend that isn't true and it isn't there? In case I see you looking and mind get upset, I'll tell you don't ask me because you're afraid to. Now, Mr. Lamb had changed the subject of looks. Dairy was telling him that he looked very ugly and people were scared of him. He tells Mr. Lamb that why did you change the subject? Even you are like others only. They don't want to talk about it and they would pretend as if it was not there. So he says that even you are afraid of my face. Even you are afraid, and that is why you did not even ask me what happened. And you are pretending as if everything was normal, nothing was missing there. You want me to ask? Say so then, Mr. Lamb said. If you want me to ask what happened, then tell me. Dairy: I don't like being with people, any people. So this shows that he was a recluse. He did not like to be with people. He avoided being with people because he was very conscious of his face. Mr. Lamb: I should say, to look at it, I should say you got burnt in a fire. Dairy: not in a fire. I got acid all down that side of my face and it burnt it all away. It ate my face up. It ate me up. And now it's like this and it won't ever be any different.